Welcome back. Two members of the Fed dissenting during this week's rate cut decision. Governor Stephen Myron arguing for a half-a-point cut, while Kansas City Fed President Jeffrey Schmidt said rates should have been left unchanged. So now we're getting some breaking news as to why Schmidt dissented. CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Liesman has the news for us. Steve.
Hey, good morning, David. Yeah, Kansas City Fed President Jeffrey Schmidt explaining his dissent this morning, joined in separate remarks by the non-voting Dallas Fed President Logan and offering a hawkish outlook for a December rate cut. Schmidt saying he dissented against the quarter-point cut because he looked around the economy and didn't see policy restricting very much of anything. Meanwhile, he's concerned about inflation running above the Fed's 2% target and that it becomes ingrained in people's psyche. Policy, he says, should lean against demand with inflation running too high and above target. The labor market he sees as imbalanced, believes the economy is showing some momentum. Inflation, meanwhile, he says, is spreading across categories to both goods and services. He went on to note that the financial market conditions appear to be easy, including equities being at record highs and bond spreads very narrow. He thinks the economy accelerated through the summer. And Dallas's Logan had a similar take, saying, quote, the economic outlook didn't call for cutting rates. She thinks it's going to be hard for her to support a cut again in December unless inflation is falling faster or the labor market is cooling more than had been forecast. Inflation, she believes, is taking too long to return to the 2% target. Stock market gains, meanwhile, are fueling wealthier household demand. The comments show the level of resistance that Fed Chair Powell faced in cutting at this meeting and what prompted him to warn that a December cut is not a done deal. Both Logan and Schmidt, they have been more hawkish, and we haven't heard from those who supported the cut. But it does put on notice of a divided Fed that includes some real staunch opponents out there of further easing, guys.
You know, Steve, this is quite interesting, and I guess it just puts so many things into question. Does this, for you, I know the odds of the December rate hike have come down, but does this sort of add even further fuel to the fire for you?
I mean, it really explains where Powell was coming from and what might have been going on in that meeting with, you know, they did vote. They had 10 votes for the cut. So there was support for that. But it must be that some of the members who supported the cut said, I'm good this time, but not next time. Now you have both Schmidt and Logan coming forward. They weren't even in favor of the last cut. So it seems to me that I'm still seeing a 68% probability of that December cut, Courtney. So okay. I wonder if the market remains out over its skis. It didn't really pay much attention going into the meeting that December was in doubt. And then it seems to still be up there and pretty confident that they're going to get a cut in December.
And so now that we know this, and to your point, maybe we know a little bit more into what Powell was thinking when he said things like multiple times that December is not a foregone conclusion. Do you think it's more knowing the discussion in the room rather than the lack of data and the driving through the fog? Or is it sort of both combined, that December is now a bit more of a question than it was 2 days ago?
The answer is yes to that either-or question, Courtney. It's the fog. It's inflation running above target. But let's take it easy now. What I'm looking for now, my reporting will do now, is try to figure out where's the default position. Does the economy have to prove that it needs a cut, or is it the other way around? That it has to prove that a cut is not needed. And I think a lot of that's going to come from looking at the jobs data, the alternative jobs data we have. We did get a jobless claims report that showed they remain relatively muted. It's an alternative report that adds up all the states, misses a few states, but generally tells you where we're at. So when I hear these folks talk today, I hear the idea the economy has to prove that it needs a cut with noticeably weaker labor data that we don't have, but the alternative data has to be weaker. The ADP data actually accelerated. We're now getting weekly ADP data. So it's a tough call. More Fed speak to come. We get the hawkish Hammock at noon. She's the Cleveland Fed president. And then we also have Raphael Bostic, and I'm sure there'll be more next week. So we're looking for that default position.
Yeah, a lot of hawk food today, Steve. People are even pointing to Amazon online sales up 8 year on year. Kind of that collision right now.
I mean, that was all we have. That was the comment I made in the last hour. You guys are having this discussion of all these buoyant stocks, and I know that the average stock is not there, but all the stuff that you guys were talking about with Jim and David at the top of that show was crazy. It was like How do you cut rates into this kind of booming investment economy with stocks surging the way they are? This is what the Fed is saying. They're saying, I can't find the reason for the rate cut here.
Yes. Really quick, how often, like with Logan today, how often does a member not dissent, but then come out later and said, I kind of wish I could have dissented?
It's not that often, but usually it's a good question, Carl. But the people who don't vote act like they are members of the committee. And really, there's no difference. They all get to speak at the meeting. They all get to voice their opinion. They all have to go out. Logan will vote next year. So it's really important to be watching her right now. Schmidt votes now. And then we'll see Hammack. I don't remember exactly when. I think Cleveland votes next year as well. So important to listen to her at noon. And Bostic's been kind of in the middle. I am super interested. Our colleague Brian Chung will be interviewing him at noon. Super interested where Raphael Bostic comes out today.
Yeah. Steve, thanks. A lot to process this week. It's just come at us at 100 miles an hour. Steve Liesman this morning.